present. I'd like to start the Monday, February 14th, 2011 Single Family Design Board. Kathleen, could you do a roll call, please?
Chair Dessler.
Here.
Denise Miller.
Here.
Aaron Carroll.
Here.
Jim Zimmerman.
Here.
And Bernie Bernstein. And Paul Luke and Brian Miller will be your letter.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move to item A on the general business, public comment. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for the panel public discussion before the board on today. Up to 2 minutes. Is there any member of the public looking to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing no one, I'll close public comment and move to the approval of the minutes for January 31st. Do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
First by Denise, second by Aaron. Okay, and we'll go through the minutes, sort of item by item, and anybody with a comment, just please speak up. 1607 Shoreline Drive, which is item number 1. Were there any corrections or changes? Okay, item number 2. Wade Court, any corrections? Item number 3, 230 Lighthouse Road. And number 4, which is 230 Lighthouse Road as well, with the 8 lots. So there was 8 individual motions. Any corrections at all to those minutes? Hearing none, I will call for a vote for approval of those minutes. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 4-0. Like to move to consent calendar for February 7th, 2011. Michelle, would you... Oh, can we get a motion for approval of the calendar? Anyone? Aaron? And then Jim seconded, I believe. So Michelle?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Consent agenda for Monday, February 7th, 2011. Item A, 1035 Sima Linda Lane. Approved as submitted of review after final. Item B, 1234 Bahada Drive. Approved as submitted of review after final. Item C, 2323 Red Rose Way. Final approval with conditions. Item D, 1314 Punta Gorda Street. Project design approval and final approval with NPO and the following conditions. Item E, 1568 Las Canoas Road, continued indefinitely to consent. Item F, 814 Summit Road, project design approval and final approval with NPO and conditions. And item G, 331 Sherman Road, was postponed 1 week due to the applicant's absence.
All right, thank you.
Items were reviewed by Brian Miller and Aaron Carroll. And Aaron Carroll stepped down from item C.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion about any of the items on that consent calendar? All right. So I'll take a vote for approval of the calendar. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstain? I need to abstain from item number A. So I'd like to move to approval of the consent calendar for February 14th, 2011. May I get a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Denise, second.
A second.
By Jim. Michelle?
Yes, consent calendar for today. Excuse me, Monday. Just a moment. For today, Monday, February 14th, 2011, item A, 331 Sherman Road, final approval as submitted of landscaping. Item B, 352 LC Lito Road, received project design approval with NPO of architecture and continued indefinitely to consent. Item C, 731 Litchfield Lane, received project design approval with NPO and continued indefinitely to consent. Item D, 621 Caideoro, project design approval with NPO and continued indefinitely to consent. Item E, 226 Eucalyptus Hill Drive, approved as submitted of review after final. And this project involved the replacement of a previously approved green roof with a revised roof to comply with the high fire building code requirements. Item F, 215 East Valeria Street, final approval as submitted. Item G, 27 West Constance Avenue, final approval with conditions. Item H, 22 Nicholas Lane, project design approval with neighborhood preservation ordinance findings and continued indefinitely to consent. Items reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Aaron Carroll. Aaron Carroll stepped down from items E and F, and Denise Woolery reviewed items E and F.
All right, thank you. So is there any discussion on today's consent calendar? Any items? Okay, seeing no comments, I'll move to take a vote. All those in favor of the calendar, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And I actually need to abstain from item B as well. So we'll move to the announcements, if there are any changes to the agenda or additional announcements.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have one announcement. I wanted to let you know that the item for 1233 Mission Ridge Road was recently granted a staff hearing officer approval, and that approval has been appealed. That was a project for a performance standard permit for two residences on one lot, and that will be going to the Planning Commission on March 10th. And the case planner, Kelly Broderson, would like a board member to attend that Planning Commission hearing.
What was the date again on that?
March 10th.
March 10th.
And just for your recollection, the motion was made and by Member Miller and seconded by Woolery and was approved unanimously, 7-0-0.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? Is the appeal having to do with anything about the single-family design boards?
No, the appeal is related to the performance standard permit, lot size, slope,
Okay.
2 units on a lot.
Okay. So I think typically we try to have maybe the person that made the motion go to the hearing. Brian made the motion, but he's the only one not here at the moment. Okay, and what's the time frame on that?
I don't know at this point.
Is it
It's
an
tentatively
afternoon?
scheduled for March 10th, so afternoon sometime, yeah.
Okay. So we might have to check our calendars, but if
Yeah, if you could let
if Denise
myself and
was the seconder, if she can't make it, then I'll either attend or we'll find an attendance
Okay.
person.
I do have one more announcement, also related to that item. Actually, story poles will be placed prior to the item returning to single family, as that was a request in the motion, but they will not be going up prior to the Planning Commission hearing. This is not related to the size, bulk, and scale. It's related to the 2 units on a lot.
Okay, so prior to it being on our agenda, we'll get notification for...
It's for the story poles,
Is that
yes.
something that we will do as a group or individually? As a group, okay. So that'll be scheduled.
Yeah. And one more quick announcement. Brian Miller will not be in attendance today.
Okay. All right. So we'll move to item E on general business subcommittee reports, and I don't believe we have a subcommittee at this time, so we can move to item 1 on our regular agenda, which is 230 Lighthouse Road, Lot 2. Okay, this is an in-progress review. We saw this item 2 weeks ago, and we should have some minutes pertaining to this project.
This is lot 2. I think they're the same for all 3, but that's lot 3.
Okay. So Denise, would you like to read the motion for Lot 2, please?
Yes. Project design approval with the finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met as stated in subsection 2269050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, and continued indefinitely to the full board for in-progress review with the comment that the roof over the garage is to be redesigned and to study the roof over bedroom number 3.
Okay, thank you. So if you could introduce yourself to the board.
Yeah, Detlev Pikert, Pikert Group Architects, architect.
Lisa Plowman, Planning Manager, Piker Group.
Welcome. If you could lead us through what changes occurred since the last meeting.
Sure, and I'm going to show you the 11 by 17 version next
could-
to it. Once we switch pages, but yeah, so that you'll be able to see the difference between the roof line of
Is
the corner.
this the prior?
We're looking at, there were 3 lots that were the focus of the meeting today, lots 2, 3, and 4, which all had a similar floor plan. And the concerns that were raised at that last meeting had to do with the roof design of those units where we had a roof that was a continuous roof with a broken slope basically on one end. Concern was raised that we wanted to see, that you wanted to see the plate over the garage lowered and perhaps that roof broken up. And the suggestion was made that one of those roofs could remain as a single slope, that is to say, continuous slope of tile roof. And so that's what we've done. So what we'll do is walk you through each of the 3 units and show you how we've changed the roof designs to meet the concerns or issues raised at the last meeting. And included in that, there were a couple of suggestions about how we dealt with the garage.
Is this a revised set, or is this a revised set?
This is revised.
So we
this
got
is
that
the
for
old.
reference.
That's the older
This is
set
for
in reference. Okay.
So we can just refer to that as we go.
Yeah, and just on, I guess just on this sheet, the only thing we're really showing that's, I mean, you can see the roof lines, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time focusing on these, but we did make some changes to the garage entrances.
So we're going to focus right now on lot 2 only.
We'll
Okay.
move right into lot 2. So we skip right to the elevation sheet. So on lot 2, what has changed here is that we have broken the roofs apart and lowered the plate on that larger roof plane. So you can see the separation there now, and you can see on the side elevation, you can see that drop. And you can see how this roof now sits on the plate over the garage there. Additionally, the small shed roof on the little pop-out on the end there had to be changed to a gable in order to, so it would still fit underneath that dropped plane. And then in this case, we also showed the kind of variation on the corbel there.
Okay.
So that's
Is that the extent of the changes on lot 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's either individual items, David.
Oh, you have to
Yes.
make your decision on each item.
You have to go through. So at this point, I'll open up public comment on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? And I don't see anybody or have any slips. So I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. Any questions regarding the revisions that have been proposed?
I got one minor question, Mr. Chair.
Paul?
The height of the garage door for this plan, is it an 8-foot garage
It's an
door?
8-foot door.
And what's the plate over the garage door?
The plate is the same plate that we're doing throughout the second floor, so it's, I think, 9'6" is the plate, as we indicated previously.
And then the little pop-out that's to the side, the little gable end, what's that plate? Would
That
be a
plate is the
6-foot?
same. Where were we talking?
Where your hand was?
Yeah. That's also working off the same plate height, although it looks a little different there.
Any other questions for the applicant? Paul, you're still thinking?
Well,
I see it.
why is it 9'6" versus 9'1" if there's no real correlation between the second floor? If you go to the section, there's no real connection between what's happening over the garage and the second floor. If there's a reason, because all the studs you're going to order are going to be the same length. Right there, that sheet right there that you had.
Where you're seeing the garage. Oops, where are we looking?
Right, you said that the garage plate is going to be 9'6" because that's what's happening elsewhere.
Well, my understanding, we haven't actually fully developed the structural plans yet, but we may end up having a shear membrane that goes all the way through the second floor and over the garage. But that would be the reason that we would have the same plate there. Maybe help me out by telling me what you're getting at. You want to
Usually, at least for me, it's a 7-foot garage door and it's an 8-foot plate, or if it's an 8-foot garage door, it's a 9-foot plate, and that sort of sets a standard kind of what it looks like. And this is 9.6, so it's a little taller, so it's kind of 6 inches higher than it needs to be. And if you lowered it by 6 inches, all you're going to do is you're going to have a step where that attic storage is off the second floor. It's a comment, it's a concern, but it doesn't need to be that extra 6 inches height, but
Well, you say that you often end up being kind of a structural issue as to whether or not that second floor membrane goes all the way across the garage. There are probably other ways to deal with it structurally, but that's at least that's the thinking at this point.
So I'm going to move to comments since we actually are in it right now.
I'm done.
Additional comments for the applicant?
Yeah, I like the solution, make it look a lot better. Breaking the roof made a huge difference in the roofs, and I like it.
Any questions about this other change? Just naturally seems to occur at that point. Additional questions for the applicant? Okay. Does anybody, well, it's already got project design approval. It's in progress, so the applicant is still just looking for comments.
No, I thought it didn't get project design approval. This was, we came back, I
This was
believe.
just specifically to come back for in progress after
Yeah.
project design.
Yeah, she
Okay.
did get it.
All right.
But you
Okay.
still need to have your landscape plan prior to being able to grant final approval for the private yard areas, so.
So we're just looking for that this is an acceptable
Design
solution
change.
for
Correct.
going forward to consent.
Is there anybody that can formulate a motion saying this is an acceptable design solution?
Sounds like you just did.
I move that.
Okay. Is anybody willing to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I think that the change that was made is acceptable, and I would give it approval.
Well, it's already got project design approval. I think what we're looking for now is the direction of, is it going to consent for final approval? Or is, I mean, that's what happened with the other projects
Right.
that got approval 2 weeks ago. I think they went right to consent.
I think it could go to consent.
Okay. Anybody looking to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Discussion? Items? Okay. Let's take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries unanimously. So it's already got approval. We don't have a 10-day appeal period at this point. We've already actually got through there. So what we'd like to do now is move to the second item on the agenda, which is, again, 230 Lighthouse Road, Lot 3. And we have some comments on that project as well. Denise?
I'm going to just move straight to the elevation.
It's a project design approval with the finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met, and continued indefinitely to the full board for in-progress review with the comment that the roof over the garage is to be redesigned to study the roof over bedroom number 3.
All right, thank you.
So what we did here...
Same applicant. I don't think we have to go through the
Yeah.
introduction again.
that Piker Group architect. So we, from our last meeting, what we understood was that you felt that one of these buildings could certainly, keep the design that we had with respect to this roof that is a continuous tile roof, but with a broken slope at the lower over the garage there, but that you still wanted to see us try to drop the plate a little bit over the garage to reduce the amount of negative space mass over the garage door. And so that's what we did. We basically kept this design, but what we did was we increased the slope on the main portion of the roof over the main part of the house, increased the slope so that we could still maintain this kind of break in the slope, but at the same time lower the plate down by about a foot, I think, to accomplish, that goal of lowering the plate, but still maintaining the overall kind of appearance of this as a variation on the theme of the overall massing of the design.
Okay. Can I ask-
That was the only thing we did on this one.
Any additional changes to the project besides the slight roof modification? No?
No, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. I'd like to open up public comment on this item, which is Lot 3, 230 Lighthouse Road. Not seeing anybody stepping up or seeing any paperwork in my hand, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions. Anybody have a question? Did the overall height of the roof change? Or you said the roof pitch changed. How much higher did it go?
4 versus, what was it before then?
2610.
So it had to get a little bit higher in order to maintain the break in the roof slope. And that was all in aid of, trying to lower the plate there over the garage.
Okay. Bernie?
Thank you. And I know I'm just trying to understand and make sure that we're following the protocol. Did we have, because these are 85%, did we do 20 closest homes? Have we seen that?
No, because it's 85%, they're meeting their guideline. It's only if they exceed 85% that they would be required to do the 20% or 20 closest lots FAR data.
All right. Additional questions? So let's move to comments, please. First comment I'd like to hear is discussion about the roof height.
No comment.
Okay.
Well, I do have a comment. There is a lot of plastic on the ground floor. Being that it's arched, why don't you just raise it slightly? Raise it.
Tim, is your...
I have. Batter's good.
Well,
Need to get a new one.
Mr. Chair, our response to that would be
Yes.
that would require then a garage door taller than 8 feet. And you're kind of getting into a kind of a custom door, and I'm not sure that, increasing the mass and size of the garage door would really add anything aesthetically. I guess our feeling is, again, that in the style of architecture, it's not at all unusual or unattractive. In fact, I think it's very much a key component of this architecture to have, substantial plaster masses, unadorned. And so I guess from our perspective, at least, we felt that it was, I guess we're not seeing an issue there, that's unattractive or unacceptable or anything.
And we already did take out some space there.
And we did drop,
Yeah,
we did drop the roof, and that was the whole point, that we could keep more or less the same design as a
You
variation.
can see the comparison, what it had been and what it is now.
So we did drop it by about a foot, but, we still have...
I have a question going back. We're going to see Lot 4 after
Yes.
this.
Mhm.
Lot 4, there was a separation in the roof, so there's only going to be one presented with this break pitch option.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is the only one that has that.
Additional comments? Do members of the board believe that this roof solution will be acceptable? I mean, I'm looking for some nods before we get to a motion.
Well,
No nods?
Mr. Chair, I know we did, I guess, say that one would be okay. I have to say that in light of seeing the other one that was done and changed, it looks so much better. It's kind of difficult to come back and say this is all right, but because it still bothers me a bit, that huge roof on there. I don't know. I think the other design is far superior.
Let me
Mr. Chairman?
hold on one second. Paul, you kind of were the lead on this issue, I think, last or 2 weeks ago. And I believe maybe it was within your conversation with the applicant that you were discussing maybe one solution could remain as a break pitch solution while some of the other ones would be modified. Since you kind of were spearheading that idea, I wanted your comments to see if you felt this was an acceptable...
My personal point would be that I think there could be a better solution there, a nicer solution with less mass above the top. And I don't want to tie the applicant's hand to say that he has to change them all. Because I like the creative whim and allow people to have some creative liberties. The choice that he has to wrestle with is that you maybe have to change the plate on the second floor a little bit. If you go to the section, you can see if he was to lower the front to 9 or 9.5 feet at the garage and bring that all the way up to the second floor, maybe he doesn't get the 8'6" in those back rooms. Maybe they become a 7'6", and then he has to vault the ceiling, which changes the trusses, which changes the interior construction. The fact is, we look at the exterior composition of the building. And I don't think it's as graceful as it could be, but this is what he would like to do. It's his name.
I'm going to ask, is it a reasonable solution that would be acceptable?
Borderline, but yes.
Mr. Chair, may I just make one comment? Maybe it'll make you feel a little bit better. But, we studied a lot of Andalusian-style buildings. And, it's a very traditional roof form that you see in this, Andalusian villages, et cetera, where you have a continuous slope with a broken slope like that. And, so we feel that it is very traditional and certainly very attractive in those buildings.
And I'll add to it that I think the roof form is a nice roof form. It's the mass above the garage door, how it has not been presented in a way that's very eloquent. It looks very bulky because we're used to seeing a 7-foot garage door with an 8-foot plate. That's tracked housing. And then when they go up to an 8-foot garage door, they go with 9'1" plates. I mean, that's what our mind is seeing when we go through tracked housing. And so having a little bit more mass up there requires more bigger beams to create a shadow. And so this is even greater than 9'6".
Okay, thanks. Jim, I'm going to have your opinion since you've got a lot of experience in this type of work.
I think a better solution would be to eliminate some of the plaster. It looks better now than it did before. But I'd rather see, less plaster up there.
Okay.
How many models are like this?
It's the only one.
Mr. Chair.
Denise.
Many times in a situation like this, the landscape architect, what I would do is add, I know it would be adding something that you haven't done to the others, though, but I've always loved the eyebrow trellis idea over a garage door, which insets the garage door.
And there are vines planned for that.
Oh, really? Well, then it gives an opportunity for the vine to
Yes.
take up onto something, and then it would mitigate that gap. But,
Aaron?
suggestion only.
I get my 2 cents is it's in the spirit of having variety on the overall site. I think this is acceptable.
Okay. Bernie, do you have any thoughts on it? I'll share. I think it's an acceptable solution to have one unit with this design. The comments that Denise made about vines growing up, I think is appropriate. And this is not one of the units that is actually on the street. It's pushed back. So I personally feel it's acceptable. We'll have to get to a motion to have everybody, or have the majority of our board, think that this is an acceptable solution. So if there's no other comments...
I have one suggestion. Why don't we run a frame around it so that the frame would give some shadow line to that space?
You're talking plaster?
Yeah,
Plaster bump, not a
bump,
pergola
yeah.
or trellis or anything.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah.
Like a plaster trim
Yeah.
band around the...
Just to take up some space and put some more shadows on there.
Something we can consider and can have that reviewed at the consent if
Okay.
that's acceptable.
So I'm looking for a motion for approval or otherwise for this design.
Again, Mr. Chair, let me just remind you guys that we'll be looking to ideally forward it to consent.
Correct.
Because they do need to provide their landscape plan again.
Correct.
I'll make that motion to send it on for final at consent,
And then if you,
and that to specifically say that this particular roof design for the one, Lot 3, is acceptable to this board.
okay. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, discussion. I think if we could include some language of some enhancement
Yeah.
around the door some way.
Consider some,
Yes.
we would certainly do
Yeah,
that.
If the applicant would consider some, either a plaster bump out, a trellis, or something to give a shadow line, and some vines definitely that could mitigate that plaster space above the garage door, that would be most appreciated.
Okay, a seconder?
I second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Yes, Bernie?
So I'm just trying to get caught up because I don't remember what is the roof made out of?
Tile.
They're red tile, they're all
Yes, they
red
are.
tile. So does the maker of the motion feel that you can make NPO findings?
It's already got
It's already
it's already got
No, but
approval.
you have to add that you have to...
It's already got approval 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay. Any additional comments? Okay. Like to take a vote on that motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. So at this point, we have enough time here. Michelle, can I move forward even though that it's on the agenda for 3:50?
Yeah, these weren't notified.
Okay. So we'll move to 230 Lighthouse Road, Lot 4. And we have comments on that item as well.
Motion for Lot 4, project design approval with the finding that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met, and continued indefinitely to the full board with the comment that the roof over the garage is to be redesigned and to study the roof over bedroom number 3.
So in this case, the roof was not a continuous roof because we have a hip roof over the main part of the second story, but we had kind of a narrow space, and you can see it over here in these drawings. So we dropped the whole thing so that it's sitting, on the plate of the garage at the garage level. And then the other comment was, I think Paul Zink made the comment about concern about this roof, the little roof over that bump out again. And so what we've done there is raise the plate to match the overall second story roof so that it really just nestles into that roof more, locks into it more traditionally with a sort of California frame over it, and just made it a more traditional roof design.
Change this.
Yeah, and then the bump out there rather than the shed that we had previously when that was higher, we just made that a little hip coming out of the side of the garage.
Okay.
Or the garage, yeah.
Any additional modifications that have occurred? I see some things around the garage doors and different style garage doors. Okay. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment. Seeing nobody jump up or having any slips, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions for the applicant. We didn't discuss it on the last items, but the garage door, I noticed there's been some changes to the style. Has there been a consistent change of the garage door, or are there multiple garage doors being...
Mr. Chair, we're actually still doing some research about what doors, and we did certainly hear the comment that you'd like to see some variation, either by way of some different color schemes or the actual style of the door. So we're still working on whether that style, whether some doors may have a raised panel and some may have some other variation. And we felt that we could, as we go forward for final, we'll have that solution to present at consent.
Okay. Additional questions?
Just out of curiosity, what is a bomberized?
That is like a zinc treated sort of zinc metal. It's kind of looks sort of aged. It has a nice sort of traditional. It looks like could look like aged copper or something, or it's not copper, and it'll never age like copper. But it just has a sort of an older, weathered appearance to it.
Where did you see that note?
Oh,
Aaron?
it's on the gutters.
Okay.
And that's what we're using for the gutters to kind of give it a traditional look without going to the expense of actually trying to do copper or anything. It's just
Okay.
prohibited.
Okay. Comments, please? Any comments?
I have a comment. On these arches, it looks like, they're going to have, 3 inches of plaster above the arch? For an arch, don't you think it should have more mass above the arch? This is the line of the balcony, right, above?
Correct.
And you're ending up with 3 inches of plaster on the arch. I think it's going to really look really thin there. And the arches are quite high, so...
And Mr. Chair, we could probably drop the arch, maybe another 3 or 4 inches, and that might make a difference in terms of your comment, Mr. Zimmerman. Again, we're trying to keep them up as high as we can to clear the windows here so that your view isn't obstructed, because these have 8-foot head heights on the windows. But I think we dropped them a few inches. I think that that probably wouldn't create any issues. And I agree. It'd be nice to have a little more mass there. If
And
possible.
these haven't changed since the preliminary
They have not
design,
changed,
so
no. That'd be a
we
new-
didn't ask the applicant to revise that. When he gets to his detailing, he probably would naturally come to that same conclusion, I'll bet.
If you want to add that as a comment for us to consider, we will certainly consider it. And as I say, I recognize
Okay.
that there's definitely some validity to that.
Okay. Additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think it's
Denise?
a great improvement from the first go-around, especially the beefing up of this little extension here. That just makes a huge difference, I think. It's very nicely done.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, let's move towards a motion. I think the applicant has made a pretty successful revision here, so I think we should be able to come with an approval motion, if somebody's willing to do that.
Okay, I'll make that motion. To forward this to for final on consent with positive comments about the new design
About the roof.
and the roof and the extra frills at the garage, and the paneled garage door is quite nice as well.
Okay. Anyone willing to second that motion? Aaron, discussion? I think we should probably add Jim's comment regarding have the applicant study the...
Yes, and to have the applicant would be so kind as to study the arch mass above the arch to see if he could add some more inches there to make it look a little beefier there.
Okay. It's fine with the seconder, Aaron? Okay. Additional comments? Discussion? Okay. We'll move towards voting. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members.
So we're a little bit forward on our agenda at the moment. And the next item is a new item, so we may have to take a break for maybe 15 to 20 minutes and come back at 4 o'clock. February 14th, 2011, Single Family Design Board, and we're on item number 4. This is a consent item, a new item for 917 Paseo Ferrelo. Concept review. Conceptual review for the proposed alterations and additions to an existing 2,951 square foot, two-story single-family residence. The proposal involves converting the existing 650 square foot garage to habitable area, construction of a new 410 square foot two-car garage, and 202 square foot of new residential additions. The proposed total of 3,563 square foot on a 10,500 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 94% of the maximum Florida lot area ratio. The project still requires staff hearing officer review for the two requested zoning modifications for alterations and additions in the required front and interior setbacks. This is comments only. If the applicants could give them their name
Board
and
members, I'm Neil DePaula. This is Dan Weber.
welcome.
Dan is the architect, and I'm the owner and planner of the project. Recently purchased this house. Closed escrow in December. It's my first house, so as you can imagine, it's one of those things we just scrape money together from friends and family to make the purchase. By way of introduction, I'm a UCSB alumni, environmental studies, public policy, and ethics. Dual degrees. Been in Santa Barbara for going on 10 years now. After school, went to work for the Tobes Group and have been in the planning and architectural industries since I graduated. I'm now working on a prototype for net zero carbon neutral housing at UC Santa Barbara. We're building a 5-story mixed-use building with the University of California, so that's a separate project that I'm heading up. As far as the scope of this project, this is a 1964 house that's hasn't been updated on the exterior since 1964, as you'll see in some of the detailing around the house. The interior had a kind of a Home Depot type remodel that is piecemeal at best. And so we're just trying to kind of tie everything together and modernize the house a little bit. From a planning perspective, I think one of the things you'll see in the remodel is one of the biggest things we've done is change the parking. Right now, you go down a very steep...
Can we open up the drawings and see the site plan as you're discussing this?
I'm going to let Dan go
Okay.
through that. I'm just going to finish up right
Okay.
with this point. There's a really steep driveway to the east side of the house. It's probably a 30-plus grade, and it's a little bit scary going down that driveway. Once you get down, there's very limited turning room, so you have to make a number of cuts forward, back, and when you go forward, you almost hit a pillar on the house. When you go back, you almost go off a cliff. So it's a little precarious at best. And we're looking to remedy that situation. And I'll let Dan take over from here, but free to answer questions.
Thank you.
All right, so the project site is up a typical Riviera Street, steep as you wind up, just above Milpas here near Santa Barbara Bowl, right adjacent to the site. Actually, if I flip to the next photograph, adjacent to the site is a deep ravine and some unbuildable area of lots there. The Santa Barbara Bowl is actually up the next rise, then over into the next ravine, so you're oriented. This is real steep as it winds up and up and up, and this comes into a little cul-de-sac, which is actually a split street. You're supposed to come in this way and then back out that way, because there's a grade difference between these two lanes. The house from the street is actually set. The roof of the house is almost right at street level, and there's a significant amount of landscaping right in front of the house, so the house is nearly invisible from the street. The only place you can see it is actually if you look at an angle down the driveway. It's very difficult to spot the house from any other public viewpoint. Just a couple little peaks from the road down there. And I've got some additional photographs that you guys can pass around. The house from the cul-de-sac is actually hidden behind this is an oak tree right in front of the house.
Is this your drive?
That's our curb cut right there. Yeah. And if I step up to the curb right here and look under the oak tree, you can see the house tucked in down below.
Okay.
So the access to the house is down this curb, and as soon as you enter the driveway, it starts diving at, I'm not sure exactly the slope, but it's, like Neil mentioned, in the 20 to 30% slope range. It's very steep. And then there's a little loop that you have to go do a 3-point maneuver to come into the garage, which is tucked in on the lower level of the house. On the corner of the lot, it drops off. The site drops off quickly, so the backyard area is almost entirely consumed by the vehicular circulation. And that issue is the main issue that we want to address with this remodel and try to remedy that situation. So here's some oblique aerial photographs so you can get an idea of the siting of the house and its context and the neighbors. A good portion of that roof area you'll see in the plan is actually a covered entryway, which makes the house seem a little bit more massive than it really is. So we're proposing to open that covered entryway so that when you look at an aerial photograph like this, after we're done, it will not be such an uninterrupted rectangle, and it will hopefully reduce the mass from neighbors that view the project from above. So here's the driveway as it dives down past the house. You loop around and you get this view of the house. This is the driveway coming up the hill. So the house right now is stylistically, we don't need to discuss it. It is what it is. But we're hoping to freshen it up and make it look a lot better than it looks today, as well as solve this major issue of the garage. This is a photograph of the covered entry that I was mentioning. We're proposing to take the roof off of that to let a little bit more light in and reduce the mass of the house.
Is this right there?
Yeah, exactly. It's just that little indentation right there. So this is the west side of the house. It's really hard to actually get a photo of these facades because it's so shielded by trees on both sides. But the west side of the house facing the ravine that I mentioned. And this is the west side of the house as well, the corner of it. The east side we have in that photograph. If in the cul-de-sac, if you turn 180 degrees, this is your neighbor. They have a steep drive, and the house is immediately across the street, is tucked up in the trees. This is the neighbor immediately to the west. I'm sorry, to the east, on the other side of the driveway, as viewed from the street, and photographs of the house from the street.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is looking east, back towards the windy road. So one of the things that I'll show you on the site plan, before we skip off this page, is we're proposing to build a new garage that's up on the street and more accessible than the current garage. And as we really looked around the neighborhood, well, as we all know, this is really typical due to the site constraints to build a garage right on the street. All of these houses are within about a 1.5 to 2 block radius of the site, including this house right here, which is not directly across the street, but catty corner from the project site. So, and a lot of these also are the downhill conditions, like you can see like this and this, where the site drops away, so we need to bring the garage up to the street in order to to make it possible to park in it reasonably. Okay, the existing residence is hatched in the dark gray, and I'm showing, this is essentially the second floor, the entry-level floor. I'm showing the proposed additions in this blue diagonal hatch, and I've added a green hatch where the proposed modifications are requested. The most significant one, of course, is the garage that we're proposing to bring right to the street to make the parking easier. This, from the street down to the entry level of the house, is about a 9-foot drop. So we'll be removing the existing driveway and adding new landscaping. These houses are quite close right now, and all the bedrooms are lined up on this side, so we look right across at this house and they look right across at us. There's not very many windows. I think maybe only a couple on the neighbor's residence. Nonetheless, we want to remove a lot of this hardscape and provide new landscape screening and privacy, make the whole property a lot more pleasant. Right now, this is, you saw in the photos, is paved from all the way from the wall right up to the house, so there's zero landscaping along this side. We will be providing a new entry to the house, coming down some stairs to the front area, and we want to preserve this area as a flat area that's attached to the upper level of the house. Right now, the upper level of the house, which is the main living level, doesn't have any access to any outdoor living space, so we want to try to keep this yard space as a outdoor living space attached to the main level without stairs. The existing deck on the south side of the house will be enhanced and increased in size by about 5 feet to make it a little bit more usable. You saw in the photo right now, it's just really a step-out walkway. Another thing that we're doing, I think that's important to mention right now, is right now in the existing condition, this deck is open on the end. It's open on 3 sides. And our proposed design encloses that deck, so it focuses the view more south and decreases the view, decreases the opportunity to look sideways into neighbors' yards. So we have a 10-foot deep wall right now from the residents and people using the deck. You cannot look to your sides. We thought that was important because the SFDB guidelines require, or state as a guideline, that the edge of the deck should be 15 feet away from the property line. The existing deck is not 15 feet. So on this side, we're increasing it significantly. I think we're 25 feet or something from the property line, and here we're increasing the distance from the property line and providing privacy. We'll also be providing a new stair so that people using the house can go down a stair from the upper level and access the backyard. This is an existing floor plan. I just wanted to show you what we're starting with. Living room, a kitchen, which is really too small to be a really pleasant kitchen, and 3 bedrooms with an office flex room on the upstairs. This is the stair down to the lower level. I'll show you the existing lower level before I get into that. The lower level right now, you come down a tiny stairway. There's a bedroom / laundry room, which is a fairly small room here. It's only 8 feet wide, and the 2 garage bays. Okay, so we're proposing to relocate the kitchen from there up to the front of the house, where it'll have better view and more space to be a proper modern-day kitchen. And the living room stays the same. We're going to reconfigure these bedrooms to create, rather than 3 very small rooms, to have a decent-sized master bedroom and master bath. It's a real open plan. This bedroom stays as it is, and the office flex room stays as it is. The deck gets enhanced from, this is the line of the existing deck. We're going to move it, increase the size by about 10 feet. Existing plan down below. Okay, the proposed plan down below, since we have the really open living space up above, we want to create a sort of a den, a quieter, more enclosed place where you can watch TV down in the bottom floor, as well as have a guest bathroom for guests who are over using the backyard can use the bathroom here. And the bedroom that was displaced upstairs, we're going to replace by taking over this bay of what was the garage downstairs. We'll add some new replace some of the existing openings with new glazing down here. Existing elevations, I'm not sure if there's anything we really need to discuss. Right now, I think that the only thing I want to mention is that the top level is wood siding. I'm not exactly sure. It's either board and bat or like a T111 type of product. You guys saw it's painted kind of a beige color, and it's in really bad need of some repair. The other thing that really needs repaired is these beam ends, a lot of them are rotting, so they need to be dealt with. And the lower half is stucco. So the proposed design, we're in a high fire area, so we're proposing to do metal siding, and it'll have a corrugation pattern. We're not quite sure what the pattern is that we're going to select, but we want to do something that has some texture to give it some shadow and depth to the building. The lower level will remain stucco, and we want to do, at this point, we're thinking probably a dark integral color stucco. There's so many trees around it that right now it's really hard to see the house, but by using dark siding materials, we think it'll recede into the landscape and be even less visible than it is right now. But we did think it's important to have a different siding material on the upper half than on the lower half to reduce the apparent mass of the building. From the street, here's the new garage we're proposing. This is an existing sandstone wall. Right on the edge of this wall, there's a significant drop-off that's holding up the cul-de-sac as it approaches the ravine there. So we'll provide a new wall and a new stairway that I mentioned on the site plan down to the front door. The east and west sides, this is a remodel, so we're essentially working with the openings that are there. These are all existing openings, and we're going to try to freshen up the building and make it look nice again. And the side facing to the east, which is where we have our closest neighbor, very minimal open, one window to allow a diagonal view out to the south. As the house has great views as it looks over the downtown, so this will allow a tiny pocket diagonal view towards the beach area. And then we're providing significant screening over the rest of the openings on that side. The south, as I mentioned, we're adding screening elements to cut the diagonal views off towards the neighbors, new rail, and a new stairway down to the backyard.
Anything more on your presentation?
I think that's all I've got to say. Do you want to add anything else?
I just want to add that I think one of Dan's design concepts, as the new garage is concerned, is giving the house a little bit of street presence. Right now, you saw those 3 pictures that we passed around. You really can't see the house, which makes it a little bit difficult when you have company over at night because there's no street lights on the street and the house is dark. I mean, we have a little bit of path lighting, but there's no way to see that there's a house there. It looks like it might just be part of the side yard for the neighbor. So I wanted to give the house some presence on the street, which it doesn't have at this moment.
Thank you.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is we did 5 or 6 options of where we could possibly site the garage, and we studied pushing it back or taking over part of the house. But the thing that we found is that if we comply to the city's driveway guidelines, which I think allow for a maximum 15% slope, we aren't able to get much drop, only a couple feet, even if we push it all the way back to the front setback. And it creates such a massive form due to the required retaining walls and grading. We really were questioning the feasibility of this, so we felt like this was the most feasible
And we
option
did meet with the transportation department and showed them a couple different studies for what they thought would be the most safe siting of a new garage. And they said that they've dealt with this issue exactly on the Riviera area with steep driveways, and we showed them 3 different options, and this was their preferable option compared to the existing condition. So this has been vetted already by transportation staff with some strong support.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a good presentation. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment, and I do have one letter. If you could actually either move to that chair, we'll actually use that chair for our public comment. And it's Gloria Cavallero, please. If you have a seat.
Okay.
And if you could kind of keep it to 2 minutes, that would be fantastic.
Okay, I'll try. I have a lot to say. My name is Gloria Cavallero, and my sister and I own the house at 911 Paseo Farella, which our parents built in 1963, the same time the other house was built, and is right next door to 917 Paseo Farella. I'm also speaking on behalf of her.
Is this your house here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've reviewed the plans for the variances that the project is requesting, and while we're fine with all the other changes, we do object to granting the variance for the construction of the new garage curbside. There's no legal or physical reason that we can see why the garage needs to be in front. As proposed, the garage would not be compatible with the neighborhood, and there are other options available. The project's nearly 3,600 square feet will exceed the size of any home in this older neighborhood, and the 94% house-to-lot ratio is way beyond any other home in the area. This proposal increases the amount of habitable space and creating the potential for a second unit downstairs while decreasing the available parking. Creating more living space allows for more inhabitants, their guests, and their cars. There is no on-street parking in front of the property. However, there are off-street parking spots at the bottom of the driveway presently, which would be taken away by this plan, which abandons the driveway and eliminates off-street parking, thus impacting on-street parking. There are 5 homes on the cul-de-sac. 4, including the applicants, have garages that are not visible from the street and provide guest parking off-street. The only house with a visible street-side garage, which Mr. Weber pointed out, was granted that opportunity decades ago and had no other option. 917 Paseo Farella was bordered by a canyon on one side and our home on the other. The limited parking is due to the necessity for the fire department to have the only access to the property, the house across the street and the brush-filled canyon. Thus, the end of the cul-de-sac is painted red for safety reasons, and added on street parking will increase the tendency to park in this illegal zone. And a little bit of history. When the 2 homes were built at the same time in the 60s, the fire department actually cut off the island, and you can see it here, on both ends, because they felt emergency equipment would not. You can see, actually, you can see the outline right there, and here too, because they felt emergency equipment could not get around. The garage will limit the light and view from our front bedroom. The one, even, it's a small window, but it will block light, we feel. And the noise created by opening and closing the garage door, as well as automobiles starting their engines right there, feet from our bedroom, is not acceptable. The current landscaping, which is lovely in front, would be removed, and the city view from the street would be blocked. Right now you look right over the house. The proposed freestanding boxy garage would negatively impact the neighborhood visually in terms of its placement and functionally in terms of the resulting negative impact on the parking. Our recommendation, if we may do that, is that the applicant construct a garage in the area at the bottom of the existing driveway, either right straight at the bottom or maybe diagonally over in the other corner. As native Santa Barbans with a 50-year history in the neighborhood, we take the responsibility of being stewards of Santa Barbara's beauty seriously. I trust that this board will concur with our concerns and reject the construction of the garage as it is not compatible with the neighborhood, and there are other options available. I've also spoken with the neighbor who is directly across from them, the Gleasons. Yes, this house here. They would have liked to have been here, but they are now part-time in Utah.
All right.
So they may be emailing you at some point.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
So, additional public comment? I don't see anybody, so we'll close public comment. Any comments from staff?
No, at this time. The applicants made a good presentation, and they mentioned that transportation looked at the plans. That is yet to be determined, but will be, their final opinion will be determined prior to the staff hearing officer review.
All right, thank you. At this point, I'll bring it to the board for their questions. I'd like to have a question first. Can you point out the specific areas that require the modifications on the plan?
Yeah, sure. The modifications are shaded in a green diagonal hatch, so the garage requires modification as it's encroaching entirely into the front yard setback. And the other, is right there. The existing house encroaches 1 foot into the west side setback.
Okay.
And so extending that house requires that minor modification.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Jim?
Yeah, what is the slope of the driveway?
I'm not sure exactly, but based on my experience and empirically, it's well over 20%.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Aaron?
You talk about, you may have talked about materials and I didn't catch it, but the garage door, siding, things like that.
Yeah, we're right now. It's just a concept so far, so we're not really sure. But what we're depicting here and what we're thinking right now is that the primary siding color or material of the house would be a corrugated metal siding, a dark matte color. We want to make the house darker than it is right now, and the stucco below would be a dark gray or charcoal integral color stucco finish. And then the garage door, we aren't really sure about the garage door, but we'd like to do either like a Corten steel or a weathered steel, cold rolled steel.
Mr. Chair, if I might just make one additional staff comment. I just want to let the, as this project is a required FAR, not a guideline, and it is 94%, the applicants, I believe they had the FAR analysis that would need to be presented as part of this presentation. So if you could present that to the board.
That was going to be one of my questions, too, is if there was a 20 closest home study.
Yeah, it's right out there.
Yeah, they're-
Okay, maybe some of the other
Is it
members
something
can
look
look
at
at
that?
that.
The square footage of the homes?
Can you do a quick synopsis of where you are on the study?
Sure. It's all the same, so it might be easier just to do it on one or two. This is the cul-de-sac, and this would be our property here.
Get that mic right there, I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is our house. This is the neighbor's house that just spoke, Miss Caballero.
Okay. As far as your FAR and square footage, what is the ranking in the neighborhood? Can we tell
I
that?
believe we rank number 14 in the neighborhood.
For what?
Floor area ratio.
Well,
No, okay, so if this is FAR, this is the FAR number. Just when we take a little bit closer look at that. Another question I have is there actually a north elevation of the house?
I haven't prepared one on this for this presentation since we're at a conceptual level. It'll be of the character of the rest of the house, but it's really the north elevation of the house is so hidden from the street that this is essentially the street elevation.
The reason why I ask is you made mention to opening up that entry, and I haven't seen a roof plan or a front elevation to know
Yeah, we just haven't
what you're doing
We
with
just haven't
it.
gotten to that level of design yet.
Okay?
But we one thing I want to add is due to the placement of the garage, the front elevation, the north side of the house will become even a lot less. Although it's really barely visible today, it'll become even less visible from the street.
All right, Bernie?
Thank you. Hi. Did I understand that you had two other possible locations for the garage that you presented to the transportation department?
We did. We studied alternatives.
Was one of the alternatives a little bit down below the driveway?
You mean in the backyard?
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
Well, the main problem that we're trying to solve here is it's twofold. Number one is the steepness of the driveway is just barely navigable, and the associated turning maneuvers that are required to actually get in the garage once you get down there. And the other is we want to be able to decrease the amount of paving on the site by removing this really long paved driveway and increase the the sense of privacy and separation between the two houses by adding a significant landscape buffer.
Bernie, I think you're leading to a good question. There's been a lot of discussion about the steepness of that, and we still don't know how steep it is.
We can figure it out here. We've got
I think
our
that's an
contours.
important question. It's been that way for 50 years.
It's dropping 12 feet.
Yeah.
And in west.
Street, you're going to go from street to right?
So that I think the applicant needs to really look at that and study that and come up with a number so we understand what that steepness is.
Figure it out.
Yes, Paul.
When the applicant met with staff, I believe they have to do a pre-consultation meeting for the requested mod. What was staff's assessment?
Well, Roxanne met with us, but she wouldn't give us. She said that it's a policy that she doesn't give us advice on what we should do or what she thinks should be allowed or not. She simply advised us what would be required in terms of the process that we need to go through and notified us that we need a modification for the garage and a modification for the little piece that encroaches.
Okay.
I think overall it was a positive meeting. She didn't.
Okay, no, that's fine.
She didn't tell us not to move forward with
When
this
you met
design.
with transportation, did transportation put anything down in writing, or you just showed them these things, you talked about it over coffee or over the counter, and that was that?
I think. Oh no, it was in a meeting in the
question with Roxanne, and the second question is when you met with transportation, did they put anything down in writing?
Right. Yes, we met with Stacy Wilson in the conference room in the transportation department of this building, and she did put some notes in the computer. I don't have a record of what her notes were, but she was encouraging about us, which is the reason we pursued the garage and the location that we did.
Okay. Can I borrow that other FAR?
It looks like there's an error on the first page, but the second page looks to be.
So this this one right here is your 14th ranked as far as
As far as
square footage
area,
goes.
yeah.
You're, according to this one, if this is only one page here.
Yeah, the FAR calculation appears, with the ranking, appears to have an error in it, which is probably a Excel error that I need to adjust.
Okay, so I'm not sure these are accurate.
Page 1 isn't, but page 2 looks to be accurate.
So, additional questions to the applicant?
I found the same thing. That the number of this ranking thing was not right.
Yeah. No additional questions? Let's move to comments then. How is the board feeling about, the big question is the garage in that area.
I guess I can see some other options. We're not supposed to design it, but I understand it's an existing house, an existing condition. We're trying to make what's there better, but I think there's a better solution, and I would say even a compromise, that if the garage was to be pulled away from the front property line, say 20 feet, giving it an apron for off-street parking as well as providing the parking off the front like is what's desired. It's more of an expensive construction solution, but it takes care of having the garage right on the front line. This property has, I don't know what the number is, 30, 40 feet available from the front of the house to the property line. It's not like, within 15 feet is the actual face of the building. There's enough room. And the open yard space that he's trying to say that it's important for them for outdoor living space now becomes what used to be the driveway down below off the first floor, or at the lower floor. So I want to say that argument doesn't hold much. And then the last thing, if we take a look at a photograph of the adjacent neighbor, one more sheet over. I know this is a lot more expensive, but if this is the neighbor next door and this is the property that we're talking about, their neighbor is pushed back a good 20 feet, and you can see how it's actually all level. So then, yes, if the garage was put here, say 20 feet-ish, maybe this is even 30 feet back, there's going to be a softness in the front, and then there's an ample place for guests to park because there's nothing in that round area where they have all the red striping. So I want to say, or even over here, you can see how it's a lot more expensive a solution, but I think there's one that's more sensitive.
Hold on. This is our comments. You can respond when you're done, when we're done. Any additional comments? Aaron?
I'll go. My first reaction when I saw the aerial photos and whatnot was how much paving in the backyard, that big circular area. And I think this layout makes a lot of sense. It reduces paving, adds landscaping. It does give a better street sense, presence. My comments, I guess this might be getting too detailed, but stylistically, I think the garage could blend with the stone of the Riviera a little better. There is a big oak tree there that you're doing some site work under that we'd probably want to see an arborist report. So I think I can support the proposal.
All right, thank you. Denise?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have to concur absolutely 100% with Aaron. I also can support it. I've been up in that area many, many, many times, and there are quite a few places where this occurs. It's not going to be setting any kind of a precedent at all. And it just seems like a sensible solution to get a landscape buffer between the neighbors and get rid of all that hardscape on a hillside. I actually like the proposal very much.
All right, thank you. Jim, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I would like to see a couple schemes with the garage moved back. There is a possibility that you could maybe come back and then actually bridge to the house from the garage. It looks like the grades would work that way. But I think the landscaping in the front there is really important. And I would like to keep a lot of the landscaping plus, move it back off the street. I think there's room to do that. I'd like to see a couple schemes showing that.
All right. Bernie, you want to weigh in?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I haven't made up my mind. I guess I'd like to, I'm very familiar with the property. I did see it. I'd like to look at the option of moving the garage, as Paul suggested, either maybe turned or maybe even down at the end, but I've not completely ruled this one out either.
Okay, thank you. Comment? I'm in a similar situation as Bernie. I'm a little bit on the fence on this one. Yes, I know garages in that area sometimes are pushed towards the street. But the other thing, not only are we putting a garage in, I mean, the massing of the building, we're getting all this habitable space down below. It doesn't change really the massing of the building, but sure, this adds to the massing of what's on the site, and we're 94%. Now, there's huge benefits of this landscape buffer down here for neighbors and for the applicant. So there's a trade-off situation. And I'm counting 1, 2. You kind of just about halfway split on the board here. That's why I'm trying to...
Mr. Chair, if I can add one more comment. If we actually go to the, that site plan's perfect. What we should realize is that the front yard setback is at 30 feet, and the garage is 20 by 20. So if this thing slid into this zone, and let's just say we're 5 or 7 feet away from this building, or we touch the building, that's their choice and bridge it. The fact is the applicant will still need to request a mod, but the mod will not be as much as a mod of asking for all 20 feet on the front yard setback.
Yeah. This overall aerial photograph tells a tremendous amount of information. I mean, I'm looking at green space around this entire cul-de-sac. This, I think, is a garage here.
Yeah, that's a garage right on the...
Yeah. So, but this neighbor, this has a buffer around this, essentially the whole cul-de-sac. And I have to admit that feels pretty good to have that buffer there. So, this project is comments only. Again, what we can do is either give favorable comments or just comments to the applicant and see where they lead as far as studying other options design-wise, or if a majority of the board members feel this is acceptable, then the motion could, not a motion, but the comments could be made that this is an acceptable solution, and we would pass favorable comments to the staff hearing officer.
Mr. Chair, I have one question, if I may, for staff. So one of the issues I know that was brought up, too, is off-street parking for any guests. So really, They'd have to get a mod for that, too, if they were going to put it in the front, would they not? Because it would be within the setback.
If they requested additional permanent parking spot, then yeah, that would be a possible mod. We wouldn't permit any plans to show a parking spot in a front yard setback or in the front yard.
Okay, so really that's just not really an option then at this point.
Not a permitted solution.
Not a
correct.
permitted solution. Permitted, yeah. All right.
Okay. Any, Bernie?
One more comment is just that it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand that the too much paving has to go in order. I mean, the paving can go, and there's other solutions, whether the garage is here or there. You can do permeable, you can do some of the landscape with the grass. You know, there's a lot of different things to soften that.
Okay. I want to give the applicant a chance to respond because I did kind of cut him off before. And I want to make sure he gets his comments in there. Is there any other comments from the board before we hear? Sir?
Yeah, when we studied the solution of keeping the garage up top but pushing it back, I think one of the things that transportation mentioned to us is they always ask to see, even though parking isn't technically allowed in the garages, they want to see if there's a garage near the street that there be 20 feet from the public right-of-way to the face of the garage, so that if a car is parked, it's not obstructing the right-of-way. We wouldn't be able to achieve that, so which is the reason they said, well, if that's the case, we just prefer you push it all the way up so that you don't have people trying to park in the driveway with half the car hanging out the street.
So tell me why that wouldn't be accomplished to get 20 feet in front of that garage?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if we pushed it all the way back into the house, but as we studied pushing it all the way back till it touches the house, there's some of the feasibility concerns, of course, with the construction and bridging. And the other thing that we had a big concern about with that is that this face of the garage, as you approach down the entry, becomes such a tall face. I think maybe an 18-foot vertical wall that you need to descend down to. So it really makes this a lot less pleasant of an experience versus pushing the garage up to the street.
So if we're not getting any additional comments, we'll have to resolve it into a motion of some sort. We might have to take a straw poll of how many people think that this is an acceptable solution to put the garage on the street, benefits of getting landscape between the property, removing, we haven't seen a landscape plan, but I think we were told that the hardscape would be removed, right?
I mean, there may be a residential use.
But you're not driving any vehicles down the side of this thing.
There might be a little,
terrace, yeah.
Some kind of permeable paving terrace.
How many board members feel that the solution of the garage being set on the street and the other square foot enhancements that have happened on the project, and also there's some design issues here too, style-wise, that have been presented. How many board members feel that this project is acceptable for the neighborhood? Raise your hand.
Is this the garage or the whole project?
Well, let's just talk about the whole project right now. I mean, square foot, FAR, the location of the garage. We can maybe remove the design component of style right now for the project. How many board members feel the project is an acceptable, compatible to the neighborhood project?
Putting style aside.
Putting style aside right now. So was that? That was 2 approved and 5 that weren't acceptable right now. That doesn't mean anything.
4, right?
Oh, Brian's not here. We got it. So it's 4 that couldn't support, 2 that could support. So I don't think our board can pass favorable comments right now with this design. And I guess you have an option of going to the zoning officer with this design. I'm not sure you want it without our positive comments, though. Is this something that you want to take another look at and give some other options to the design?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it's clear, after hearing from our next door neighbors and hearing the comments of the board, that we do need to study this a little bit further and take all the comments into account, so we can have a project that's unanimously supported by the board. I mean, that's our goal, to make everybody happy. And so I think we're early enough in the game here where it's not going to take a lot to make changes, and hopefully that could be supportable by everyone when we come back, and then get favorable comments from everyone.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So if that's the case, I want to pass along a little bit more specific comments than what we've made to the applicant. I guess Aaron and Denise are okay with the garage being on the street. Jim has talked about other options of moving it further back and studying that, and so has Paul. And I think Bernie has raised the question as well. I think that's the biggest issue. Let's talk about style. Do the majority of the board members feel this style is acceptable for the neighborhood? And without a straw vote right now, just kind of looking at heads. Is it a little bit too much?
If the garage is right on the property line, then I would agree with what Aaron was saying, that it needs to be relating more to the stonework. So sorry. But if it gets pushed back a little bit, then it can be more woodsy, and it can be of material that's kind of in vogue right now. So I'm fine with the direction it's going and how it could be applied.
What about the corrugated metal siding?
You know what? That's just what's hip right now. So.
Well, don't we have a chance to talk about
That at the next
Yeah, I just don't want to.
hearing
I just
rather
don't want to
than
mislead
give
the
them-
applicant
Well, I
that
don't think we
everything's.
should mislead them that
Yeah.
we think that's okay either.
Well,
Well, then speak up.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm
My 2 cents in this kind of stuff is that it's not what I would do as a designer, and it's not what I really like, but I'm not the homeowner, and it's their style, and it's up to them to make it look good.
would you think it would be acceptable solution and compatible with the neighborhood?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Jim?
I agree.
Yes. Okay. I think you'll be yes. I know you.
I think that they made a great comment that the colors and everything that they're going to choose, and there will be landscaping in the front of this.
And on the side, all along
and
the
all
side.
on the side, that it will end up looking like negative space, dark negative space. You're not even going to see the thing, probably. So I think I can support it.
Aaron,
Yeah,
okay.
will echo what Paul said. I
Is
think
that Bernie? I just want to make sure your voice is heard. Are you?
Yeah, well, I'm reserving the right to look at the color board and look at the materials as we do, and, open to green.
Design and all that, whatever, they're trying to do, but it has to fit our guidelines also.
Okay. So I think, that, again, the majority of the board members, and I'm in agreement, I think the style is, we can work on that, and is generally acceptable. So that's, I think, a big step forward.
Great.
Any issues with FAR numbers, and, especially if that garage comes back, I think, a lot of square footage is actually becoming underneath the house, which is already volume in there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think square footage is a problem. I think it's the. I'd like to make a motion to come back with.
We can't make approval. We can make a motion for comments. Go ahead, Jim. To have them come back.
I'd like to have them come back with a couple schemes, setting the garage back. I think that with this design, the garage walls wouldn't have to go down to grade. You could put them on caissons, and I think and landscaping could be underneath it, so it'd be kind of a see-through. So I'd like to see some schemes on a different design for the garage.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Second, and comments or discussion? I want to add, if the applicant, you mentioned something about a terrace down here, if we could do some development of what's occurring, where the driveway is leaving, some sort of a planting plan, a development of the site there, and again, of course, incorporating all of the comments regarding the garage. Did you have additional, Aaron?
Well, I think we need to decide on where the garage is going before we ask for a landscape plan.
Well, some idea of I don't think there's enough development on the site plan of what's in the back of the house even. Did I already miss it? Yeah. So it just doesn't show anything. So, well, they mentioned a terrace or something back there, so I'd like to see some of that start appearing on the plan.
We just haven't gotten to that.
And then also, I think either a section behind here, or just showing what that north elevation and a roof plan, was this intended to be completely open? Was that a trellis above?
Just want to throw out an idea just so people can think about it and comment. Right now, with this garage, which would say is 20 by 20, 400 square feet, the house is going to be at 94% FAR. And that's because we're basically infilling the basement area and we're doing this small kitchen pop-out where a covered roof happens to currently exist. So the only increase in size, bulk, and scale is the 20 by 20 garage. Well, let's just say he moves the thing back 20 feet and now he has the opportunity of putting another room underneath it. Now, he might go over 100% FAR, but really all we really gained was a 20 by 20 area. It's connected for the garage, and it really almost could be classified as a basement. But that 400 square feet takes his 94% FAR and bumps him to 101%. I have no idea. I'm just thinking out loud. My only point is we're still only adding a very small area, and that it's actually the negative space underneath because of the way the driveway slopes to the road. That's kind of leftover space that I don't see that as a hindrance to us. But I wanted people to be aware that what if he comes back at 99.99% because now he's got that space under the garage. Sorry.
Well, we'll have to wait to see his solution, I guess. I mean, we're not looking for increasing the FAR. If there was a crawl space underneath there for yard equipment and things, I'm not sure that's going to be calculated in there unless it's a certain height. But it just depends on his solution. You're right. I think moving it off the street, though, is massing-wise going to be the biggest improvement to the neighborhood, not if there's an understory to the garage. But it's we'll have to wait to see what solution comes back. I don't know how much we're sloping down or if we're coming straight off the road, that sort of thing. So those are pretty good comments. I think you have some pretty good direction here. Any additional comments on the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just
Bernie?
one quick thing. We really appreciate your attitude of working together, and that's kind of what we're all about. And of course, the architects always want to build, but not necessarily everybody wants to get bigger. But I did want to make sure you know that in our book on page 75, have you looked at all this? It's all about meeting with the neighbors, and so everybody's all in harmony, and you can do what you want, and they're happy because they understand what it is. So I'd encourage you to look at these in our book. Thank you.
Can I just make one comment?
Quickly.
I appreciate that. We have drinks scheduled later this week to talk about it and hopefully come closer to a solution that works well for everyone. We'll come back to you with something. Hopefully, they can speak in favor of this.
So we haven't voted on the motion yet. How many weeks, or do you want to?
I think we'd like to come back as soon as possible.
So 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We can put you on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Is that good? Mm-hmm.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll see you next again.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So the... Yeah. Item 5 on the agenda is 221 Oliver Road. This is a new project, conceptual review for a proposed 486 square foot second story addition to an existing 1,803 square foot one-story single-family residence. The proposal includes a new 130 square foot second story deck, the proposed total of 2,289 square feet on the 6,250 square foot lot located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone is 83% of the maximum Florida lot area ratio. The project requires staff hearing officer review for the requested zoning modification for additions in the required front setback and to permit an as-built wall that exceeds 3.5 feet at the front of the property. This is comments only. All right?
Yeah, my client and the owners were on their way. Is that all right if I see if they're out in the hall waiting out there?
Sure.
Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Sit up at the table with
Okay. One announcement I think I need to make. Bernie is actually stepping down from this item. Okay. If I could have your names for the record.
Patrick McDermott.
and Dan Weber.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And your
Happy
present.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Your presentation.
All right. Is there anything you want to say as by way of introduction?
I'm not sure what's appropriate, so
I'll get into it, and then you can, if you think of anything, you can add. Okay, so might as well skip this page and go straight to this aerial photograph, which I think is a better orientation. Okay, Cliff Drive is here, and Shoreline is here. Lazy Acres is here. The nearest beach access, Mesa Lane, is right here. The project is on the intersection of Oliver and Hudson. Oliver is a neighborhood feeder street, so this tends to be busier, and Hudson is a low-traffic cross street. All right, the house right now is, this is a tough lot because it's narrow. It's only 50 feet wide, and as you know, these corner lots are impacted by the double front yard setback. So it's got 20 feet on Hudson and 20 feet on Oliver as well. And to make matters even a little bit worse, the house when it was originally built was sited fairly far back from Oliver. So it kind of splits the lot evenly between approximately equal sized front yards and backyards without leaving either one of them as really a yard that's as nice as it really should be for a family-oriented neighborhood like this. Is there anything else I need to point out on here? The neighbor to the south has a pool in the backyard, and this neighborhood's 6-foot setbacks. Every house is typically built right to the 6-foot setbacks.
We'll come back to it if we need
Okay.
to.
Okay, the house I've got some better photographs here, which you guys might find helpful. Okay, this is the house from the street. It was remodeled in, I think, 2004, and an architectural character update was done to the house, including Spanish tile and new site walls, a new gate. This site wall was added to enclose that front yard and make a usable outdoor space there. New landscaping. And so overall, it's a lot of the houses in the neighborhood have not been updated. So this is right now one of the, it's a fairly nice looking house for the neighborhood. This is the house looking from Hudson Drive. And this is that low 42-inch site wall that's right on the property line. This is, looking into the backyard off of Hudson and the garage right now, which is right on the street. The side yard towards the neighbors. This is another good view of looking into the backyard off of Hudson, and a good overview shot of the house on Hudson Drive.
Okay. Let's see what you're doing.
All right. Okay, this is an existing site plan. This is actually a plan that I just pulled from the set that was approved back in 2000 and built in 2004. The existing house has this, when it was originally built in the 60s, has this dark poche, so it's just this little tiny square. This is Oliver, and the front door is actually here. So this addition was added, and now we're proposing a second addition. Since it has these double front yard setbacks, the previous addition had a modification requested and approved actually to allow an addition to encroach 10 feet into the front yard setback here and an additional 5 feet for the garage. So the current existing garage approved in 2000 was approved with this an encroachment actually 15 feet into the current front yard setback.
It is worth noting that the original house was actually...
Yeah, the original house, the day it was built, encroached 10 feet into the setback. This is more clear on my site plan. You can see the development envelope here, which is only 24 feet wide due to the double setback. So the existing house, as it stands today, is in gray, and we're proposing a second-story addition, which is this blue hatch, and the green area is the area that's encroaching. So the area that's green is encroaching by 10 feet into the front yard setback on Hudson.
Okay.
Other important things to note, I think, is that the primary street in the neighborhood, our proposed second floor, is set back 51 feet and 51 and a half feet from the property line and another 10 to the curb. So we're a good deal back from the street. Another thing that we're trying to solve in this project, one of the most important things, is that since this area is used as a yard and since the garage is over here, the way that Patrick and Lauren use the house on a day-to-day basis is that you come and you park in the garage, and then you need to go into the house. There's not a door into the house other than through the garage. So neighbors and guests that come over, or even the UPS man, they find it really confusing as to where the front of the house is. It feels like the front of the house is here, but it's technically here. So we want to update the architectural character to make the what serves as the front of the house right now actually really be the front of the house. I think this would be a good point a good place to point out the proposed second-story deck. We'd like the second story to open onto the south-facing deck. And again, since we're so impacted here on the site, we weren't able to get the edge of this deck 15 feet from the property line. Otherwise, it would just be so small. So I have made it about 10 feet from the property line. Actually, 11 feet. 11 feet from the property line with a 4.5-foot deep planter to provide additional privacy. There are these existing trees on the neighbor's property right now which provide a really good privacy screen, and we want to enhance that with some additional proposed landscaping. This is the existing floor plan as the house is right now today. You can see is what's technically the front door. In order to get to the main living space, which opens onto the backyard, you have to go through the living room and then walk through the dining room and through the kitchen and through the family room and out to the backyard. So we want to do a new front entry here that opens more centrally into the house. So the proposed floor plan, you come in off Hudson Drive into a transitional entry space, and you have a den or family room off to the left and the main living space off to the right. This is where we would add a new stair to go up to the second story addition. So the second story stairwell will have a small office and a modestly sized master bedroom, bath with closet, and the new deck, which looks down onto the backyard. And we'd like to add a stairway, both because it will help to soften our elevation and to make the yard more usable and increase the access. Oh, the other thing I should note is that this is the primary, right now today, this is the primary outdoor living space. So if you're barbecuing or eating outside, there's an existing deck right here that's covered by the trellis that you guys saw in the photographs. So that existing outdoor living space will remain underneath this proposed deck. Existing elevations. We don't need to spend any time on that. Okay, so this is the side of the house facing Hudson, which we're proposing to transform into the front door. So we're adding a new entry element and accentuating the appearance of this as the front of the house. Whereas you can see the front facing Oliver is really very private and close to the street, as is enclosed with the walls that are there right now. The new second story addition is in this area, and this half of the house stays as it is. Our architectural detailing, we want to just match the established architectural character of the house right now. So we're proposing to maintain the Spanish style that's been established. On the west-facing side of the house that faces the backyard, this is the new deck with a planter. This is the property line to the neighbor to the south right here. The outdoor dining space below, and the new stairway that we're bringing down from the deck. Right now, today, there's an outdoor shower, and we're proposing to build a little nook that the outdoor shower can tuck into under the stair. The side facing Oliver, there's no proposed changes, although you can see the second story in the background, 60 or so feet back from the street. And this is the side facing the neighbor to the south. You can see our proposed second story is pushed maybe, I'm going to say about 20 feet from the property line. So this is 20 feet back, and this existing house here is 6 feet from the property line. Our new deck, this is existing landscaping that's there right now, providing a privacy screen, which, as I mentioned, we want to enhance. So I think, is there anything else that I'm forgetting, Patrick?
The existing, with the construction, the original, the remodel.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. If I can flip back to
part of the sustainability aspect of our planning.
We did look at all of the various options of places to put this second story addition, and the main reason that we decided to put this addition right here was primarily for privacy. We want to respect all the neighbors and stay as far away from everyone as we possibly can. So that's why we decided to go in this location. A second important aspect is that the previous owners, when they did this addition, which is from here forward, were thoughtful enough to plan on a potential future second story. So they've designed all these footings and the structure here to accommodate a second story. This living room, additionally, as it slopes up, is a vaulted ceiling that has exposed beams. So we'd like to maintain the volume that's there right now in the living room.
Which actually captures the light pretty well, because there's actually only a relatively small window in that room. There's some what do you call those windows?
Clear story.
Clear story.
Yeah. This south facing, there's a bunch of landscaping, and we're close to the fence, so that the orientation is primarily that way towards the backyard.
Okay.
This is fairly closed.
I think that was a pretty good presentation, and the board understands it pretty clearly. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment, and I see Michelle pointing at me.
Before we open public comment, I just wanted to make a couple quick announcements on this project. In addition to the requested modification for the additions and alterations in the front setback, it would also need an open yard modification. The existing open yard area does not comply with the required 1,250 square feet. And I see...
I can point that out on the site plan. Right now, there's a non-conforming 6-foot-high fence right at the property line. We're proposing to abate that violation, lower it to 42 inches, but keep it where it is. The open yard area is dashed right here with this dashed line. So right now, today, it can't comply to the being 10 feet from the property line. So we're proposing to keep it as it is.
Does the... No, I'll wait for the question period. Michelle?
Just further clarification on that Hudson Drive side, that's what we would call the secondary front lot line, and the required open yard has to be a minimum of 10 feet from the property line. They're showing 5 feet now, but it has to be a minimum of 10 feet.
That's what he was saying. It's not there yet. Okay.
I forgot to also mention that Patrick has gone and talked to all the neighbors surrounding the property, and I think gotten...
Yeah, I've actually got letters of support from all of them.
Those would be great to submit.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, just handing them over.
Do you? Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to open up public comment now. I have a slip from Bernie Bernstein. Patrick?
Yes.
Could you actually, that's our seat for speakers.
Sure.
Bernie Bernstein, member of public.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to clarify that I am speaking as a member of the public. I will not be voting on this project. And I just have a couple of quick comments. This is the first time that I've seen the plan. I did get the notice of it. This neighborhood, in my way of thinking, is at risk. It's a neighborhood in transition. All one has to do is look up on the top of the Mesa hillsides right now, and you can see the huge, huge houses that are going on up there, you know, one lot at a time. And when the NPO first came about, it was determined that, yeah, that was a good place for those big houses. They have a great view, but people who are interested in the neighborhoods look at projects one by one, and in particular this one, and we want to look at the impacts on the neighborhood of a project and what type of precedent might or it might not set. And so just from my quick look at the presentation right now, it seems to me that a couple of things that to me as a neighbor are red flags are the non-compliance of the deck being too close. It doesn't meet the neighborhood guideline. Another one is the exterior staircase. I only can think of one other property in this whole area that has one exterior staircase, if even that. I'm not even sure. And so I think that might be a compatibility issue for the neighborhood. And I have basically just going to suggest that the board strictly apply the guidelines that they have, I should say, and make sure that whatever is approved here, and I do like the design. I think it does fit with what's already there. Maybe, you know, it's maybe a little bit bigger, but the staircase and the deck and some of the mods, I would suggest that you look at. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this, hold on.
I forgot to submit.
Hold on. At this point, is there any other public comment? If not, I'll close public comment.
Let me.
Michelle, I'll open public comment again.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Let me just acknowledge these letters received. We have a letter from John Fraser at 246 Coleman Avenue in support of the project. A letter from Tuan Nugent and Sun 3 Quamarat in support of the proposal. A letter from Josh Kane and in support of the project. And a letter from Kevin Connors in support of the project.
Thank you. Any other public comment before I close it? No? I'll close public comment. I'm not quite sure all of the addresses of the letters that you presented. Patrick, you may be able to point out the ones that...
I can tell you real quick. The only two indicated. Josh Fraser is at 246 Coleman and Kevin Connors at 231 Oliver.
And Tuan and Suni are the property directly to the south.
Okay.
Tuan Nguyen and
All right, thank you.
River Blue.
Yeah, River Blue.
All right, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to bring it to the board for their questions. My question is, I think the applicant has some more pictures
We just
that...
have photographs of contextual photographs showing houses similar to what we're proposing, all within a couple blocks of the project site.
Okay.
So you guys can pass those around.
All right, thank you. Additional questions for the applicant? I'll have a question. Did you actually look at a second floor solution that would not include a modification?
Yeah, we did. We studied several solutions, and all factors combined, this was the preferred solution primarily for the privacy of all the neighbors. It's also one of the really significant things is to have outdoor living space on the south side of the house is beneficial for so many reasons that we're able to take advantage of the sun coming in, all of the passive heating, and the general, all the things that you guys know all about of indoor-outdoor living.
Okay. Additional questions for the applicant? We'll move to comments then. Paul, you don't want to go first? Anybody want to go first? I mean, the big thing obviously is all the modifications in my mind.
Sheet A, 1.2. For that one is fine. I mean, I was raised probably 15, 20 years earlier than you in this town, and what was beaten into my head is if you can make a solution work without a mod, that's the direction you're supposed to go. And every time I sat down with Roxanne, she'd tell me, you don't stand a prayer. And that's off the record, but the reality is you're asking for too big of a favor of the city. And every time you ask for a mod, it should be something minor and something very unique. You don't have anything that's special or unique, so why should I give you 15 feet? Because you know what? Everybody else in town is going to ask for 15 feet on their second-story front yard setback, and that makes the whole code that we try to follow pointless. So I can't support it, period.
Can I give feedback?
Nope.
When we're done, you can have your say.
The other minor, now this is just on a design
Spoken
thing.
like an ex-chair.
On a minor thing, looking at the architecture, the balance between the one-story and the two-story, you need to have a softness in between, or a transition zone. And what's missing is this element is too tall. You can see it over here. Maybe it needs to be brought down. Somehow there's not enough, but that's really minor, but that's another thing that I caught.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Additional comments regarding the design and the modifications being asked? Denise?
I think architecturally, I can hear what Paul's saying there, but I think it's very, very nicely done. I think where this board ends up having trouble is with exterior staircases such as this, and also the fact that your deck upstairs does not comply with our guidelines. I think that the planter is nice, and that it's a good tip of the hat in that direction, but I think you should comply with the guidelines since you are asking for so much.
How are you feeling about the development and the modifications on that side?
Well, it's a lot. I mean, and the house has already been developed and added on to make it just almost a lot buster, so to speak. And now it's going even further. I'm very familiar with this neighborhood too, and although I do realize that all the small little salt box houses aren't really sustaining anyone anymore, that's just they're not going to be sustainable. It seems that this has already seen its iteration to become a bigger, and now it's kind of pushing the envelope to go even bigger yet.
Okay, I think I got it. Jim, you want to weigh in?
Yeah. Front yard setbacks, very important. I know in my experience trying to get a mod to go into the front yard setback was down. And especially with two-story projecting into the front yard, I think that the deck could be brought to 15 feet and still hold maybe a 10-foot deck up there. That's
great. Aaron?
I think that there's a lot. I'd like to see another solution, kind of like the last project. The last project, I could understand what the solution might be, but this one, I think would be helpful to see that the solution of the second story within the setback.
Okay.
Maybe something a little more minor would be acceptable to me.
Okay.
I see that the second story could be within the setback, and that would affect the second story deck, all those things.
Okay. Denise, I heard you Did you have another comment?
Yes, it did, if I may. Well, one of the things, they're really not in the front yards. It's a corner lot, and that's what the constraint is here. And I've lived on a corner lot before, and I understand it is terrible. I mean, what you have to go through and the hoops that you have to jump through. And keep in mind that the reason that they are putting this addition here is to not impact the neighbors. They're not impacting the front yard setback, just this side setback, which I will call a side setback because that is, in fact, what it is. But, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
All right, thank you. I'm going to have to fall in the position of Aaron and Paul, where we do this every day, and we always have to look at these setbacks, and sometimes we ask for some leeway, but this is just taking a two-story and putting it right above your first story on a piece of that's already 10 feet into the setback, and that's your lot. I mean, going in, you bought that lot, you knew what that lot was. So I'm having a hard time saying that's an acceptable solution when I can see there's an easy solution of not getting a modification. I mean, it's a very easy solution. It might not be preferable, but it's a very easy solution. So I have a hard time with this project. I mean, style-wise, it's done nicely, but I think it's just going to be too tall and too in your face on that front of on that Hudson Drive. So, and
I'd like to, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make one comment. That's called side yard, but that's the entrance.
It is actually now going to become the entrance. Yeah.
Now it's a side yard. Now, I would think that you could develop this area and maybe incorporate that as the entrance, and still be out of the setback. But being that your entrance is there, that's actually considered the front yard. So.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have one more, if I may. We have to keep in mind, well, one other thing to consider is that they did tell us that, they've already, the prior owner already went into the setback and already made sure that the bearing walls were there for the second story. That's what's driving this remodel to be where it is. And I mean, okay, maybe it's not that acceptable to us, but I mean, I understand where they're coming from. It was already planned that way by somebody, and that's probably why they went out there to start with. Still not okay.
I don't think that's a reason to just say now we can build a second story above it.
No, I know. It's just
probably
have an
because
issue
it's
with a corner house having to deal with two front yard setbacks. I know that I'm bucking the powers that be here, but I don't think it's fair.
Well, everybody has their opinion. I don't want to belabor the point too much because I think you've heard most of the comments. I do want to get back to, you were going to say something about, I don't know if it was the modification. If you could get a little closer to the mic.
I understand completely and I actually really respect what you guys do for our city. I think we're in a architectural renaissance in this city because since 2007 this committee has existed. So I truly do respect what you do. And from what we tried to do was everything that the intent of this board is set up to do in this project, which was to be in line, is really to protect our neighbors' privacy in the best way possible, and maintain the character of the neighborhood and do it in a sustainable way. And this really nails it on all points. If we were to put it over here, this neighbor over here, his view corridor is directly this way. He said specifically in his letter that this is the location he wants to see it because of that. He's the one that's the most impacted visually by this. The neighbors directly to the south, this is their living quarters. So any living area that's up here, all light that would shine down would go directly into bedrooms. And they hardly ever use the backyard area, even though they have a swimming pool, which is great and all. And they are 100% of us being back right over here. This neighbor here, this is her driveway, and her living space is way back over there behind a 20-foot hedge. This neighbor here, Josh Kane, he is in a lease purchase agreement to buy the property, and he specifically said he supports this as well in case he ever wanted to do something, and which would affect his views. So we tried to do all that for our neighbors, for their views and their
The
privacy.
thing, the board doesn't protect views.
I understand. For privacy, you do.
Correct.
This is
But it also has compatibility of the neighborhood, and that's probably the overriding point.
Okay. And then sustainability, the third pillar of your existence.
But it could
here.
be sustainable there, too.
No, it would require more demolition. And I would say demolition creates waste, which is unsustainable. And more noise and more impact to the neighborhood.
Okay.
So I hear your point. You know, the last part I want to make is the house was built originally in the setback. The addition that was 7 years ago, 6 years ago, was built in the setback, and this is not. I mean, it's in the setback, but it's
Okay.
certainly not.
So we definitely hear
outside
you, but I don't know if anybody has changed their thought process. Yes, no.
Would I also be able to ask for clarification?
For
I'm just interested on what the objection is to the outside stairs. Is it more the way it looks, or is it you don't want people coming from the bedroom down?
Paul, you want to answer that?
I can chime in. I would say that the board will change personnel every couple of years, and so you could say like every 5 years the board will have a different thing they pick on, and not everybody on the board will agree, but when the majority of the board hates exterior stairs, for the period of 5 years there won't be that many people or projects approved with exterior stairs. I personally don't have a problem with it, so I stay quiet because I'm in the minority, but I actually like the idea of having exterior stairs.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to... I'm not sure anybody here will. I'm not sure the majority of the members will be opposed to this stair at all.
Oh, okay.
So I'm personally fine with it.
I thought it might be because it made people afraid it would be rented as a...
No.
That's a city issue with the design.
So I think you've heard the conversation here. Again, similar to the last project. Are you willing to go back and take another shot at the design, or do you want us to just deny the
I
project?
think...
Yeah, we could do that too. We could provide negative comments to the staff hearing officer.
So I guess it's the puzzle we're trying to work with in terms of the privacy issues for our neighbors specifically, because I don't know how we address it. I mean, we looked at so many options of moving this little square footage around through the property and without affecting their view corridors, their privacy, and this was the one that seemed to be the bang on one. So if you guys have any feedback for us that...
I think you can easily design something right there that would respect all of that.
And take into consider...
Not views from neighbors, but as privacy issues. And
even though we're right into their...
No, you can figure that out, sure.
I agree.
Yep, 100%.
I think, I think probably it's up to you, Patrick, but I would say we probably want to return in a couple weeks with design revisions.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you've heard our comments. Do we have I think the majority of the board cannot support this drastic an intrusion into the setback. If you designed it and there was 2 feet that come over that on the second floor, we wouldn't be having the conversation we're having now. But I think you're going to have to come up with a solution that basically respects the setback, I'm not sure you can do anything about the open yard. I don't think you have it either side there. I think it has to be on that side anyway. So,
yeah, it does.
and style-wise, I didn't hear any real negative comments.
And these walls. Yeah, we got to comment on those.
Yeah, that's again just another zoning ordinance that I'm not sure I could accept a 72-inch wall. It's just something that we're not.
How far is it from the property line?
Well, these walls are 10 feet from the property line. These were approved on the set of plans that I showed you back in 2000 at 72 inches, which is what they were built at. And when we reviewed the project with Roxanne, she started looking at them closer and said, well, this should have never been approved. So no problem, just go and get the modification for them to be approved as they're designed and built.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, I guess my comment would be I don't have a problem with it just because it is a corner lot. There's a lot of traffic, and if there's landscaping in front of it, it'd be one thing if it was 1 foot from the property line. It being set back 10 feet, there's an opportunity to landscape in that area.
And again, it was it wasn't the whole length of that wall. It was just a small portion.
It's a
Right,
corner
I can
portion.
show you on the...
But if this is the
picture.
law, I don't see anything that says 72-inch walls was permitted.
Yeah, it's on a separate site plan. This was a
Street file.
owner-prepared plan, but I can provide that to you if necessary.
It might be
Drawings.
good next time to see that.
Sure, absolutely. There's a photograph.
So it's just this area right here.
Yeah, you can see that it bumps down to
Yeah.
probably 36 inches.
Yeah, I think this is something that we can discuss next time, and don't go out of your way to try to knock it down yet.
Another clarification is what if you voted to deny the project, what would that mean for us?
Is that something? Did I misspeak on that?
Yeah, generally, at this stage, we would just recommend comments to the staff hearing officer. That generally, we like to see them forward positive comments. That makes it more usually approachable for staff to support the project. But yeah, we wouldn't recommend denial right now. We'd recommend that you proceed with the staff hearing officer, whether the board makes positive or negative comments at this point. So you can either continue and try and get positive comments, or you can proceed now to the staff hearing officer at your discretion.
Okay.
And proceed with the project as designed.
I guess if that's the case, then our plan should be to be continued and see you guys again in 2 weeks.
So 2 weeks
Try to address
is adequate? Okay.
2 weeks adequate?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you have a pretty good understanding of what we're looking for.
Back to back.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments.
Just for the record, we would like to kind of summarize the motion very clearly. I know you made very clear comments, but for the record.
Okay.
Chair, I'll make a motion that the applicant study a second-story addition to the structure that does not require a significant modification, and it would be. And the second thing is the board finds the 72-inch high plaster wall in the front yard setback in keeping with the existing architecture, but looks for additional documentation from the original permit that you said you had.
All right. In 2 weeks to full board.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Does everybody understand the motion? Second by anybody? Aaron? Discussion, we're kind of done. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
With one person missing.
Well, 5-0. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So we're going to move to item number 6, and I see Jim Zimmerman stepping down. And then Bernie, you're coming back on this one? Okay. So this is a new item, 237 San Nicolas. This is a proposal for a 398 square foot first floor and 420 square foot second floor addition, totaling 818 square foot, and an exterior facade remodel to an existing 1,468 square foot one-story single-family residence with an attached one-car garage. The proposal includes the demolition of 171 square feet of existing residence, the demolition of the existing 248 square foot one-car garage, and construction of a new 421 square foot two-car garage. The proposed total of 2,288 square feet on the 6,000 square foot lot located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone is 85% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. Action may be taken on this project. If you could introduce yourself.
I'm Jim Zimmerman, architect for Harry and Maria Ghazali.
Welcome.
What we have here is a one existing one-story house, and as we look at the scape of the existing houses, we have a two-story, one house up. This is the site here. We have a two-story, two-story, two-story. So there are quite a few two-stories in the neighborhood.
This one is this one.
Yeah, and this is a two-story right across the street. Let's see if I can get it here. Yeah, this is right across the street, and this is the next house over across the street. So there are quite a few two-stories in the neighborhood. We have, we go to the next sheet here, and you can see where the location is. It's about in the middle of the mesa area here. The existing house, this is the existing floor plan, and what we're doing is right now it has a one-car garage that's 15 feet from the property line, which is this garage here. So we're saving this wing here, which was built onto several years ago, and we're saving this wing. We're taking and putting a two-car garage in here, which is 20 feet from the property line. So this is a one-car garage, 15 feet from the property line. Or one-car garage, yeah, 15 feet from the property line. So we're moving that back, providing a two-car garage, and putting a second floor in the middle portion of the house. So right now, what we're doing is we're putting a two-car garage 20 feet from the property line here. The entrance, you come up into a small courtyard, which recesses the second floor back from the front. On the north side, the second floor is recessed back, and also the south side, the second floor is recessed back. So the second floor is nestled right in the middle of the house. This is a second floor patio that's built into the roof, and that's 15 feet from the property line. And I took some pictures from that, and standing on the existing roof where the patio would be and the height would be, this is a view looking this way, and this is a view looking this way, and this is the existing house right here. And then as you go around, we have thick landscaping on the south side, southwest side, and then the north side, or the west side, has thick landscaping, and we plan to retain that. It's very mature and it's very thick. So this is the front elevation, and let's go to the floor plan. as you come up, we have a small courtyard, and we enter the first floor here. We got the two-car garage, and this portion here is a portion that we're keeping, this whole wing here. Then as we come in, we have the living room, dining, kitchen area, and then the stairs go up to the second floor, which is a small balcony, and then the master bedroom, bath, and wardrobe. And this is the patio that's recessed into the roof, and that's 15 feet from the property line. On the front elevation, this is the small courtyard as you approach the house. And we got the two-car garage, maybe running a trellis across the top to get the landscaping and the vines to tie in with the white trims and the cedar shingles. We put a gable here with some small shutters, which I think fit in nicely with the with the cottage type architecture. And then these windows are right here, which lets light in, and from the balcony you can look out these windows. And that is recessed back about 20 feet from the front of the house. The west elevation, we have a patio in this location here, and part of the second floor projects over the patio, and what we've done is we've extended some beams out to another line of columns here. And that ties in real nice. We'll carry the beams in under the second floor, which ties the, I think, the trellis together nicely. The supports will be about 12 inches square, and we're going to put shingles. We'll build those out and put shingles on, which I think will match the cedar shingles.
All right. Thank you.
This is the south elevation. This is the recessed deck in the roof. And this would be the partially covered patio there.
Anything else? I think that was a good presentation.
I have one other thing I wanted to show, and that would be a section through the recessed roof patio, which I think will explain that. So this is the property line, and then the balcony is 15 feet back, and this is recessed into the roof here.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the front patio as you come in, the little courtyard, and then we have beams and a trellis across the top. So.
All right. I think we got it, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to open up public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience other than my wife. Is there any comments from staff?
Well, I do have a letter from a public that we'd like to acknowledge from Brad Froling at 249 San Nicolas, and they are in support of the project.
Thank you. So at this point, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for their questions.
I do have a color board if you're interested. This would be the Olympic stain on the shingles with a white trim. And I've used this on one other project, and it's called Da Vinci. And you can get a really, this is a bad color, but you can get a really nice variation with butt joints and stagger joints. No,
it comes pretty.
It comes that color. This is a color scheme here.
Okay, so let's just get our questions out first.
Okay.
Any questions on this project?
Question, how many altogether total decks are there?
Just one.
The roof one that's,
Yeah.
okay. And what is the size of that roof?
It is, I actually have my ruler. It's 12 by 11 by 12.
Any additional questions? Aaron?
Sure. Are you proposing to keep all the hardscape, the driveway, the front walkway, or are you going to?
No. No, that will be redone.
There isn't a plan yet for that.
No, we'll need a landscape plan.
Okay. Let's move to comments. I'll jump in. I think it's a very good project.
I concur.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I would say that this is a fantastic project. It's a wonderful design. It's modest in what you're approaching. The only thing that's missing to give it preliminary is a landscape plan. So, but other than, or not preliminary, well, whatever we call it, project design.
Okay.
But it's a great project.
Thank you. Thanks.
I really want to thank you, if I may, Mr. Chair, for keeping our guidelines in mind with the
And zoning
setback. Yeah.
ordinances.
And the zoning ordinances, and not going into any meeting any mods. But this is a very nicely done second-story deck. It's just nestled in perfectly.
There's a couple of comments. I mean, I know that there's just some coordination with chimneys. Sometimes the chimney's up high, sometimes it's low. It looks like it's been erased once.
Yeah.
And the skylights are over, I guess, this central area here?
Yes. That'd be right in this area to bring light in the hallway and the stairs.
Wow. Okay.
I may have one more positive comment here is that I think this style is really a nice direction for the Mesa area. You know, it seems to be something that you do. You do this style.
I
quite
enjoy
a bit.
it.
And it's
Yeah,
just, I think it's
enjoy
just
it.
perfect
Yeah.
for the beach feeling, the beachy feeling, and it's very aesthetically very pleasing. Really, kind of like I'm happy to see it in lieu of Spanish architecture,
Yeah,
which
right.
was sort of imposed upon us some time back. And Santa Barbara was never that. It was always very eclectic. So I'm really, really pleased to see this.
Is anybody ready to make a motion for?
I just have one more
Yes, Bernie.
question. Okay, yeah. In general, I also like the design and the style, and it's 85% of the maximum. So it's really, I mean, just so the general public knows, this is as big as it can be, and it is pretty big, but it's nicely designed, and it has different levels, and I think it has the beach theme, which is appropriate to the neighborhood. My one question is about this deck, which is showing up in various places. This one is the most disturbing to me, and maybe it's because I'm not seeing it correctly.
It's right here.
That's a skylight.
Oh, that's a
Yeah, it's right
skylight.
here.
Okay, thank goodness. Okay, so then that's the deck, and that's the skylight. That's the deck, and
Well, you
I
don't-
would. Is
yeah.
this the deck right
You
here?
don't. No, you don't. That's a cupola.
Okay,
on
I'm
top of
just
the
trying to
garage.
get. So this is the deck right here, and it is 12 by 11, and it's set back. So yeah, I guess I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
You're
And I
welcome.
believe that the deck does meet our guidelines. Aaron, or you have a question? That you just look. Okay. Is anybody willing to make a motion for project approval?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make that motion for project design approval with
NPO findings?
NPO findings of neighborhood compatibility, the quality of design and materials, and then we need a landscape plan, of course, for the new hardscape
Yeah.
features that you'll be adding.
Could we bring that back in 2 weeks, or could we go to?
You ask if it's okay to go to consent or not.
Yeah, does everyone agree that this could get final on consent with the landscape being reviewed on consent? And so
Great.
be it.
That's a first. Is there a second? Second?
Comment that maybe if there's an opportunity to add a street tree, I didn't see
Oh.
it in the survey. That might be part of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the comment of adding a street tree is,
How about check with transportation or public?
There was
Yeah.
one before, as I recall, and actually it got caught in a disease and
They jumped
they took it down.
okay, so we have a motion, a first, a second. Additional comments? None?
Aaron's got in there, right?
Aaron's comment about the street tree? Okay. Jim, can you just show me that roof sample again?
Yeah.
Paul, did you see that? Okay. And what was the color that you were thinking?
That's a bad color. I kind of like this or this.
Okay. And it's going to be a stagger, and it's going to be kind of different variations?
Varied widths.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So all that information will be coming on a color board, additional color board, I guess?
Yeah.
Incorporated
fine.
into one board? Again, with lighting and maybe some garage door cut sheets and things like that.
And Mr. Chair, the windows, do we want to look at windows and doors and garage doors? We usually
Garage
look
door,
at?
the window, is it going to be a clad window, a painted window?
It'll be clad outside and a
It's
wood
probably going to be
inside.
the matching of the trim, right?
Yes.
In your style.
Right.
Okay. Is the garage door going to be a different color?
It'd be nice if we can use that scheme. I don't know. I think maybe the garage doors could pick up a green of the shutters or something.
Okay, yeah, so you need to
Yeah,
develop that a
yeah.
little bit further for the consent. Okay, the motion, all those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very, very nice project, thank you. At this point, I'd like to close the hearing down and wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.